No ciekawe. A, na Twitchu. Okej, teraz weź tu Twitcha. No ale nic nie jest. Szukam transmisji, która będzie. Ostatnio transmitował 24 czerwca. Teoretycznie to chyba tutaj będzie. No zobaczymy. Na razie trzeba trochę pojeździć. Muszę jeszcze sobie tego Discordzika odpalić. Dobra. Nie wiem czemu teraz nie daje dźwięku, no ale dobra. Niech sobie leci. Spa już trochę potrenowałem, więc pora teraz na Hakonę może? Może też być maple, tylko dobra. Powinno wszystko być. Mhm. Okej. Najważniejsze to na tym pierwszym zakręcie się nie wypierniczyć. Co oni tu hamują w ogóle? Co 2 sekundy dostanę pewnie. Brak kary, wywaliłem gościa w bandę, ale brak kary. Fair enough. Niestety takich manewrów nie zobaczycie dzisiaj podczas tych finałów, bo tam są takie kozaki. Nie sądzę, żeby to było tak, że to są mistrzowie kwalifikacji, ale ścigać się nie umieją. Nie sądzę, że tak było. Oni tu wolno jadą. Ja w swoim już powinienem mieć 300 na godzinę. No dobra, 207, 280, ale jeszcze zwalniają. Nauczcie się jeździć.
Time penalty
4,5
is 4.5
sekundy.
seconds.
Ja też mógłbym się nauczyć jeździć. Nienawidzę tej szykany. To jest najgorsze miejsce ever. Ever. Gdziekolwiek. Gdzie w ogóle oni? Za gość. Ja wjechałem w niego, ale te boty potem wjeżdżają jeszcze mocniej w ciebie. Tu jest 280, a nie tam 230. Wyprzedzenie tylko zewnętrznej ryzykowne. Nie chcę go dotknąć. Chcę mieć zaliczony czas. Hamuj! Co za dziad? Serio? Zbrejczekował mnie. Ten we mnie wjechał. No, boty są ułomne. Są najgorsze boty, z jakimi się ścigałem. To jest Forza. Chociaż w Forzie Horizon boty nie są takie idiotyczne. Że wjeżdżają w ciebie. Wow. Zrobiło się. Zrobiło się surowo. Ja tam miałem czas 1:08 coś, bo oczywiście 0,8841. Dobra, again. Trzeba zejść do 0,7. Poniżej 0,8. A tu jest nasz. Dobra. 10 miękkie, dobra, elegancko. Jeszcze mi się tak nie zdarzyło, żeby na pierwszym kółku wszystkich powyprzedzać. miejsce, w którym momencie trzeba skręcić. Tam jest taka może nie plama, ale jest takie miejsce, gdzie o tak jak tutaj, że się asfalt zmienia. Muszę wyczaić, w którym miejscu tego zmiana asfaltu, muszę zacząć skręcać. Teraz skręcałem przed tym i to nie był dobry pomysł. To się było za wcześnie. No tak, teraz to na pewno będę wszystko sprawdzać w ten sposób. Bo próbuję wejść tam w tą szykanę, jest szykana. Na pełnym gazie. Da się, tylko trzeba dobrze ustawić bolida. Te łby tutaj wyglądają, ja tego nie rozumiem.
Time penalty is 2 seconds.
To był full gas. Myślałem, że się na żyletki zmieszczę.
Time penalty is 1.1 seconds.
Odpuściłem, a mogłem nie odpuszczać. Już wiem, w którym miejscu trzeba skręcić. No wcześniej.
Final lap.
Musiałem odpuścić, bo gdzieś tam zahaczyłem chyba trawę. 1000. Brawo. No nie. No lepszy czas, jakieś pół sekundy teraz poprawiłem. Ale ci goście, którzy tam jeździli, tylko zaraz zobaczę sobie, jakie mieli czasy. Gdzie to wysłałem Michałowi chyba. Ja zrobiłem 1.8.681 i gdybym zrobił taki jak teraz, to byłbym 2 pozycje wyżej. 14. I dalej jest dopiero 7,5. Dalej jest 7,5, czyli powinienem coś zrobić, żeby zejść jeszcze 6 dych. 7 dych. No dobra, zobaczmy. Forza Motorsport Spa. Nie Spa, tylko właśnie mapy Czy tam jest mapy? 106 318. Tylko nie z tej kamery, no dlaczego z tej kamery? No ale patrzę na linię przejazdu. Z trawy w ogóle startuje. Trawy. Tu skraca. Nie, tutaj te tarki jak się da. No dobra, jeszcze raz. Jeszcze raz sobie to przeanalizuję. Zwłaszcza pierwszy zakręt. On tutaj w ogóle od tarki do tarki leci. Na trójkę tam zrzuca, wymusza na nim zwolnienie silnikiem. No właśnie, hamuje? On tutaj hamuje silnikiem, on w ogóle nie hamuje w pierwszym zakręcie. Jakby nie używa hamulca, tylko używa właśnie hamowania silnikiem. To jest full gas. Ma w milach i nie wiem, czy on jedzie tyle co ja, czy on ma inne ustawienia na przykład, nie? Może mieć setup zrobiony i fraken pierdaken wtedy. Ale ciekawe, że pierwszy zakręt tak naprawdę bez żadnego, bez hamowania. Ciekawe, ciekawe. No i po co mi 07 943? Ewentualnie no też tutaj mogę zobaczyć. Ale nie wiem, który jest jego. No, bez sensu. Hejka. Kupę nubie. Kupę nubie. Spoko ksywka. Get out. Co tam u ciebie? Miałem tutaj wchodzić z samej redukcji. No i chuj. No to jest najgorzej, jak stanowiska, symulatory, ale force feedbacku nie ma. To jest... Jakim cudem ktoś coś takiego robi w ogóle? Dawaj! A pamiętasz, jak byliśmy na tej hali na zawodziu i były zawody te w jakiegoś tam Kolinie, jakieś rajdówki były. Nie dość, że kierownicę miało się między kolanami, bo totalnie beznadziejnie było rozstawione wszystko, to jeszcze też chyba w ogóle force feedbacku nie było.
Time penalty is 0.2 seconds.
No tak, czyli dali sprzęt, ale w sumie to go oszczędzali. Nie wiem, kto się za takie rzeczy zabiera. Muszę się nauczyć tutaj bez hamulca wchodzić. I muszę zauważyć tą tarkę w końcu. Tarka po zewnętrznej. No i sraka. Tarka po zewnętrznej. Dupenbladen. Bokiera była z kartonu. Tam było jakieś gówno, gdzie chyba w ogóle nawet nie miało jakiegoś tam sensownego kąta obrotu. Jak miało 360 stopni, to cud. Holy shit. Próbuję jeździć trochę inaczej, tak jak tamten gościu, co zrobił czas 2 sekundy szybszy. Ale przez to psuje. Wypierdzielać mi z drogi.
Time penalty is 2 seconds.
No nie użyłem hamulca,
Time penalty is 2
ale
seconds.
za to użyłem innego paliwa. Już ty. No super.
Time penalty is 2 seconds.
Nie wiem jakie on ma tam ustawione w takim razie to hamowanie. Ale mi to zrzucenie do tej trójki nic nie daje. Nadal muszę, że tak powiem, smyrnąć hamulec. Tak.
Time penalty is 5 seconds.
Panika. Nie wiem, czy ja chcę ten sposób wypróbować dalej. Dobrze na nim nie wychodzę. Moja mama wygrała. Your mom won. Popełniać błędów. To robię cały czas. Dwa okrążenia, żeby ich wyprzedzić i zrobić jeszcze przewagę. Jedenastu sekund. To jest sporo. No, spłaciłem się.
Last lap. Let's go.
No i teraz 11 sekund muszę wypracować. O 11 sekund nie zrobiłem na pewno. I czas słaby. Jeszcze pół godzinki zostało, to teraz jeszcze na Hakonę się przeniosę. Teraz weź tu se przypomnij nazwę. Siedem, 4. Oho, zaczęło się. Jeszcze się nie zaczęło. Ale za 2,5 minuty się zacznie. Dobra, to niech się tam zacznie za te 2 minuty. A my jedziemy na Hakonę. Ewentualnie mogę... Co mogę? Mogę to wrzucić tutaj. W sumie czemu nie? No i gdzie to leci? A, okej, to leci na kanale Forzy, a nie Logitecha. Forza. Proszę bardzo. Okej. I sobie to dodamy. Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. We just saw our first race in the APAC region, and it was a lot. It was a lot going on in that race between first and second, between Goki and Dez. You know, whether it's Ian with the patented defensive driving, the first offensive defensive driving I've ever, I think, seen out there in the G Challenge. So he's got, you know, a claim on that, and just the battles as well. And one thing I think to mention is Craviator, who we you know, saw in the previous seasons, had a fantastic update from Bass while we were on the break, and you know, he was kind of in second in all of, or if not most of our races in the last season, but obviously finishing and battling around 5th and 6th in that first one. So kind of an underdog story starting to develop here in our APAC region.
And for our current front runners as well, very much the opposite of that. We saw them kind of towards, you know, fighting for that like 5th, 6th, 7th positioning in a lot of the races they did during the last season. Now they're leading. So this is a region that is shaking up, actively evolving. But it's always fun to see, especially now as, like I said, we've had some changes in the previous season. We're sticking with one car throughout all 3 races. And an interesting smaller tidbit just for more kind of avid sim racer fans out here, we're not relying on like real tracks now as we go into our final 2 races. Right. These are Forza specific tracks you're only going to find in Forza, and in Maple Valley's case, a very fun track for this style of vehicle as well. So it's going to create some fun times here that we normally wouldn't see in our previous series. So I'm excited to see how that shapes up.
And I guess, you know, just like a small like peek behind the curtain too, when we're kind of developing each season and saying, all right, what are our tracks? What are we going to go into? It's always like, you know, Maple Valley? Maple Valley. so a fan favorite, a viewer's favorite, and one of our favorites too. So anytime we can go to Maple Valley, we love going there, and that'll be our 3rd race for the day. But for our 2nd race, like we mentioned, we are getting ready to go into Hakone. And really, I'm just kind of excited to see these battles. How are Goki and Dez going to do? Is there any shakeups again in that qualifying? And it looks like, you know, Zach is going to be actually starting in P1. We saw him with a comfortable, I think, P3 finish in our previous race. And as we get into our second of the APAC G Challenge Grand Final, we'll see how this one is going to shake out.
Let's get into it with the race starting. Okone is going to be a very different circuit from what we saw on Spa. For the most part, we're looking
penalty is 0.5 seconds. Time penalty is 0.2 seconds.
Niesamowite, że sobie tak zdaję sprawę z tego, że będąc tak naprawdę ogórem w tej grze, dostałem się do wielkiego finału. I w sumie trochę by była kicha w trakcie tego wielkiego finału robić właśnie jakieś takie głupie będy typu wyjeżdżanie z toru i lądowanie na bandzie, nie? Wydaje mi się, że to jest mój cel na dzisiaj. Żeby po pierwsze nikogo nie rozwalić, po drugie siebie nie wywalić. To jest taki nie najłatwiejszy cel do zrobienia.
penalty is 0.1 seconds.
Top position, just the driver. Up and down that finishing in the mid pack.
Three remaining.
So as our race comes to conclusion, lots of drivers out there really trying to make
Muszę zejść poniżej tych 58.
This race became way more serious for all of our drivers, considering P1 and P2 are sitting in 4th and 6th right now. So this is the new drivers' championship at this point.
Final lap. You got this.
At the end of the second race, fighting for the championship.
Just hedging his bets on another giant shakeup for P1 and P2, and his, couple of P3, P4 finishes might take him here. Obviously, in race, but so far it looks like Wielki just make his way down to 8. Just gonna have to wait and see what things look like after this one to really start to really ultimately convince him race 3.
It's going to make race 3 absolutely when we see it, yeah, that's going to determine kind of, all right, who needs to step up and
Right.
who gets to chill out a little bit going on to our third and final race here.
Yeah, normally it'd be like, okay, well, this person's finishing in first. Who's going to be second or third? But this one's like, this is kind of anyone's race here as we see our final results from race number 2. Of course, Subaru taking first, nice jumping up 4 positions. Goki also from starting spot, like working his way back up the grid. Dez struggling a little bit in that second race. Hedgie bumping
Okej,
down one,
już
Zach
więcej się
down
nie
one.
będziemy ścigać.
But really just some big shakeups.
Trzeba troszkę
Creator,
odpocząć.
while like kind of consistently mid-pack, still trying to work his way up. So very consistent and solid racing out of Creator.
Więc
It might
teraz
just be that
sobie
that competition that came in this
pooglądamy.
season has just really kind of leveled up.
And to be fair for Creator, it looks like he had some struggles in qualifying for this as well, because look at where he started. He went
Yeah.
up 8 positions
Right.
from where he had actually started this race at, versus the opposite of that from what we saw on Dez, where he was actually in 4th. Something happened that we didn't catch on camera right at the beginning of the race to bump him down so far, and still was able to reclaim, like I said, those 2 positions or so. It was Goki, excuse me. I think I'd mentioned that Dez had made like a massive climb earlier. It's more so Goki that started a little bit further back and then was able to climb a few positions to still be in top 4 towards the end.
Yeah, and I'll be curious. I think it was Zach, if I was reading right, might have secured fastest lap point as well. So those can definitely come into play depending on how kind of the math shakes out. I believe Goki might have nabbed the first
Goki.
one. Zach nabbing the second one. So,
Which, if that's the case, we might be looking at a situation where I think Zach might be among like top 1 or 2 right now, just looking at how consistently he's played.
Najlepsze jest to, że oni tutaj już znają ich, nie?
it's
Bo
going to be
tu są
definitely interesting to see once
z
those
wielu ludzi,
point
którzy
totals
już
come
jeździli w
in,
tych
but,
wszystkich zawodach.
between, kind of like our, 3, 4, 5 positions in race 1 and 2, they might be in the best spot right
Kind of
now.
quietly hanging in there.
It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm showing up to class on time. I'm taking notes, and it's paying off.
Not spinning out.
Yeah, it's paying off. So we'll take a look at those points once they are up, and I'm genuinely so excited to see like what those look like. So I think we're going to throw it to a brief commercial break. We'll check our math because I'm sure this is, maybe we want to make sure we're getting this one right here, and I do too. So we're going to throw it to a brief commercial break, and then we'll be right back with our standings and our final race of the APAC region. So stay tuned.
No dobra, teraz będzie odliczanie. Więc co? Coś piszą na tym Discordzie? Nic nie piszą na razie. Więc myślę, że i tak będę musiał to okienko, że tak powiem, zmniejszyć, bo i tak pewnie jak wrócą, to już pewnie będą stawiać lobby i będą zapraszać, więc zróbmy tak. O, i teraz jest za duże. Za duże. No i niech sobie tutaj leci, chyba że zaraz nade mną. Chyba w grze chyba nic tam jakiegoś specjalnego się nie jest potrzebne. Tylko że ten pasek, no niestety tego paska nie umiem usunąć, chyba że ktoś wie jak to zrobić. Nope. Jezu. Dobra. To będzie paseczek. Chyba, że wam go zmniejszę tutaj. O, żeby aż tak nie wystawał. Może tak będzie lepiej. Chyba tak. Także niech sobie to leci nad moją głową. I zaraz pewnie posypią się zaproszenia. No i znowu będzie czekanie do wyścigu i tak dalej. Więc teraz oczekiwanie. Zostanę sobie tutaj, nie wiem czy wam podgłosić trochę. Nie, tu jest full w ogóle głośność. No dobra, czyli nie
Ladies
za.
and gentlemen, we are back with the Logitech McLaren G Challenge, and I am excited both to see our current standings in point totals and get into race 3. It's going to be a fantastic, just like 1-2 punch of what's going to happen. So yeah, after that second one, some big shakeups on that leaderboard. Our P1 and P2 from the first race, not even in the top 5, or maybe Goki somewhere around there.
Jakieś tam wcześniejsze też wyścigi
having
mieli.
a tough run of it, but Craviator, a P2 finisher from the previous seasons, working his way up the leaderboard back into the mid-pack, but not at all in that like, top 3 that we've typically seen. But when we take a look at this leaderboard, we have Goki still up in first, and I think if he did get that fastest lap, that is putting him in first over Zach.
Dodatkowy puchar.
How close we are though. Goki's at 48. Zach is a single point behind him at 47. Subaru, a single point behind Zach at 46. Hedgie, only 4 points behind that. Fifth even, just 3 points. This is still a very open grid right now in terms of who can end up winning things as we wrap up our third and final.
Placeit jest
And
im,
I want
jest
to
ich
say too, the difference between 1,
partnerem,
2, and
tak samo
3,
jak
I
mój
believe,
fotel,
is all
tylko
being
zasłoniłem
separated by
sobie.
individual fastest laps. I think if my memory serves, Goki got race 1 fastest lap,
niepotrzebne.
Zach got race 2 fastest lap. So if you take those out of the equation, yeah, but it's Goki by 1, and then we've got a tie for second. So it is neck and neck here. And really, it just takes one. We saw Dez, for instance, in that first race, spun out, but was able to maintain second. But a situation like that happens for one of our, top 3 going into this race, and they could just be, out of it. It could just be donezo. So we're going to Maple Valley, MP44. I'm ready for it. I'm excited to get into this one, and we'll just kind of see what happens.
The big difference here between their previous 2 tracks is expect there to be virtually no opportunities for these racers to like really slow down to like a first, second, or third gear situation or really try to get a pass on each other. This is a very high speed track, and it stays high speed pretty much the entire time. We got a couple of wide turns throughout the course of it, but aside from that, that's pretty much it. And we have a bullet of a turn to end each lap as well. So this is going to be fun. This is a perfect way to end this, in my opinion.
If I were like watching this from like a real life perspective, and I was going to, I would just camp that last turn. I'm just watching the whole race from that last turn. I'm just seeing people go by, and I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? That's where I would park it right there. Just set up a static cam right on that, and like I'll just see what happens.
I think the in-game name for it is literally the Rocket as well. So it makes sense because people are literally going to rocket down the hill, similar to what we saw on Spa in the Eau Rouge turn, where you really kind of go downhill fast and hard, and then have a slight uphill curve. Yeah, basically the same thing, but we just took the uphill part out, so you stay fast, going all the way through pretty much.
We said, what if you didn't have to slow down?
Yeah, pretty much.
So I am excited to get into this one. Like we mentioned, just
Lobby
one
otwarte,
point
zaraz zaczną
separating
zapraszać.
our first, second, and third going
może
into
przez
this.
niego
And
dołączyć.
this might be a scenario where fastest lap is make or break for one of these drivers. $1,000 on the line, and also a VIP, all expenses paid trip to the McLaren Technology Center. This is going to be an exciting final race here for APAC.
So you can see that now on the track down on the top right. A lot of very smooth, straightforward curves we can carry forward. A lot of momentum. The other thing to note here too, of course, since all of our racers for the most part, and quite a few of them are going to be using, wheel sets, this is a pretty rough track. You can see it there. This is not up to usual standards that would be in play for a track of this caliber. So in a few areas, especially as we go over the bridge before we wrap the farmhouse, the road gets quite a bit bumpy. So players are going to have to be careful about how they traverse this.
You're going to feel it.
Yeah.
You're going to earn this victory here.
So there you go. You can see it with Rex sliding out already.
Yeah, Dez and Goki, 4th and 5th right here. Subaru, though, in the lead by almost a second. Hedgie, again, just kind of hanging out in competition. He's right there. Zach in 3rd. We've got Dez and Goki again. Absurd Cargo, Craviator as well. All names that have kind of just been in the running. And now it's really just make or break. Who's going to clutch up in this final race? Either Subaru locking it in, Zach locking it in. Can Goki work his way back up? Is Dez going to have a redemption run here? There is so much going on in our final race of the APAC region.
Around the farmhouse we'll go, having completed our first lap, and it's actually looking like a pretty stable grid so far. No crazy moves being made just yet. But
także z całej tej stawki 4 z nas jest takimi, którzy mają niski poziom, taki poniżej setki, a reszta to tam zaraz zobaczycie zresztą. Żebym się napił wody. Najlepiej z cytrynką. Ale w tym momencie trochę za późno. Się obudziłem.
Yeah, checking in with the mid-pack, all very tight here in our 3rd and final race of our first region of the day. And maybe something worth mentioning too is, a lot of fresh faces, new names in our P1 through P3 as we just get a sense of that speed coming through here, just white knuckling down that final turn. But yeah, I wonder if even the mental game is going to be shown here at all, because we've got some I believe
Nie
even our previous
powinno.
winner not, you know, competing in this season.
Teoretycznie.
You know, we've seen Craviator, the second place finishes, you know, not kind of up there in those P1s
tam
through
trochę.
P3s. So will inexperience also play a factor as you really need to lock in at these breakneck speeds on Maple Valley for our final race?
And it's always such a fine balance you have to play coming out of these longer straightaways where you can really take them on with a massive amount of speed, easily 200 plus miles per hour in some of these situations. But you also don't want to over brake as you work your way toward the big curves like we just see here at Amphitheater and towards the beginning of the track towards the farmhouse, because you'll lose too much momentum. That's how players will catch up to you, will eventually find that opportunity to pass you. You have to find that fine balance between speed and control as you work your way through this track.
Yeah, it's kind of, if I were to make an analogy, it's like doing a tightrope walk, but at 200 miles per hour. It's kind of that's what you're working with right here, as we see Dez trying to, you know, battle against Zach here, and really Subaru in this position, setting himself up for success. He's just got to maintain that lead. Hedgie, though, again, just consistently in that second, third, and maybe fourth in the first race, but always in that battle, but somehow kind of staying out of the action to secure those positions. Craviator, again, the name we've mentioned, kind of the experienced G Challenge competitor, struggling with a little bit of the competition out there on the grid today, but still very solid and impressive performances. We've got Goki battling against Cargo. Goki dropping down to 6th is a big deal, as I believe he was the point leader going into this race, but only by a single point.
That leaves Zach's in a pretty good position as he still maintains third. Hedgie and Subaru directly in front of him. Subaru would be the closest contender, although Hedgie actually had been sitting like 1 or 2 points behind him, and now Dez actually just managing to pass Zach.
O wcześniejszym wyścigu cały czas, bo nie widzę, nie kojarzę żadnego ani Dezi, ani
This is
Subaru.
going to really come down to the wire here. We're only halfway through things. This is a good opportunity for Goki. He definitely has the speed advantage over
Pewnie
Absurd
czekają,
Cargo,
aż
but
oni
Absurd
wszyscy
Cargo
przestaną,
all over the
skończą
track,
gadać.
not giving him an inch
I
here.
dopiero
Who
wtedy
breaks
puszczamy.
first? It's Cargo giving Goki that positioning, and actually we're going to see him try to push it further, but no, it's Dez and Zach instead. They're still fighting for their own positions, just 2 places in front, and Zach, very well done here as he works his way around the barn house. He's able to retake things as well.
And to put it in common terms, Dez has the opportunity to do the funniest thing right now. If he were to clutch a P1 here, work his way up the leaderboard, we might see another shakeup in your conclusion of these standings, as Dez really has locked in here on our third race on Maple Valley.
Absurd going to be able to retake positioning from Goki again. Those two continue to go back to back. Same with Dez and Zach. It's such a close race here. And hold on, maybe another move being made here at the moment. Dez is trying to find a way to fight back for third place position and get him back onto the podium once again.
Okej,
Zach's
tak,
aware of
czyli
how
kiedy
aggressively
będzie
he's
stream
being challenged, though. And
gotowy,
you're
czy
seeing a few
przestaną
players do
gadać,
this
to
track
dopiero
limits are being
wtedy
tested a bit here
odpalą.
on this one as well, which is
Odpalą
so
lobby.
dangerous for this style of car. But with the speeds they're coming down
No
the
i
rocket
problem
like
jest
that,
ten,
it
że
doesn't even
właśnie
matter anymore. You can soar right over the grass of the wheel or two and
Czy ja
not
mam
even feel it
zalać-
really. So that's exactly what players like Dez are utilizing right now.
And Goki continues to battle against Absurd Cargo here. We've seen Goki climb his way back up out of this mid-pack before.
Czy zaryzykować, bo z tego co widzę, oni tutaj gadają, żeby ustawić 5%, zaczynamy, 5% paliwa, 5% paliwa i softy, nie? Bo się nie będą zużywać ani paliwo, ani softy, a będzie samochód najlżejszy.
Goki's had so many opportunities to get past Cargo, but Cargo just not giving him an inch of the track that he needs right now, playing his own position so defensively. So Goki maybe getting a little bit frustrated there as he goes for the love tap instead on the back, tries to work his way past, won't find the chance to do it just yet. We'll see our high-speed maneuver coming up here in just a second, though, as most of our drivers start to work their way down through the rocket once again and begin lap 7.
Really, though, might be locking it in potentially, as we see Hedgie a decent chunk of time behind, while the action has been
paliwo
intense
bez ograniczeń.
3, 4, 5, and
Czyli
even down
5 i
into
softy.
6th. It's
To
really
się
the
nie
difference between,
zużywają.
Subaru and Hedgie kind of making a big portion of it. But how tight it is into this race is really the sort of every single position matters, even if you're finishing second. Depending on Goki's position, you know, Zach might be fine in this position, but Subaru
Ustawiłem to?
really kind of giving
Ustawiłem.
himself the best shot.
Na razie trening. To jest tak niemożliwe. 51.
sudden death rules? Is that something that can happen? What are we looking at here? As we, you know, add those up, total them up, and work to bring you guys the results. But again, first place
Okay, teraz mam 10 minut
with $1,000, and not just that, they get that fully paid VIP expense trip to the McLaren Technology Center. Super cool experience. Basically,
zakręt wchodził dzisiaj. Czwarty, no to za chwilę będzie ten, za chwilę będzie wyścig. Co tam?
Jak ci idzie?
Na razie ćwiczę. Mamy teraz 10 minut 10 minut practice'a, bo oni tam gadają na streamie i za chwilę powinien zacząć się wyścig.
Gdzie na spa, czy?
Spa, no, pierwszy spa.
Spoko. Co myślisz?
Nie wiem, liczę na cud. Aczkolwiek problem jest w tym, że jeśli nie ma uszkodzeń i oni mają tutaj przewagę niektórzy 4-5 sekund na okrążeniu, to nawet jak się wypierdzielą, wiesz, na głupi ryj, to i tak w ciągu, wiesz, okrążenia dwóch są w stanie mnie dojechać, nie? A czasami nawet jednego kółka, jeśli wiesz. Już zobaczymy, co to się będzie działo. To grunt, żebym ja się w nic nie wkopał, nie? No, za mną są właśnie. No tak, wystarczy, że się zagapię i już jest po to koniec. Takiego jeszcze nie miałem, żeby mi tak rzuciło. Wyjście, opuść trening. O, clean race. O, właśnie. Jak to wygląda? Jedziemy, nie jedziemy? A za 4 minuty, bo oni jeszcze tam coś... Dobra, jeszcze trening. Let's go. Nie. Zrzucanie biegu to jest bez sensu. Rekordy. Okay.
Where we've got some, I'd say, favorites that we're probably going to be taking a look at, but based on what just happened in APAC, I don't know if favorites matter much at this point. The results are going to be just differing from race to race, and as we saw, it's really anybody's game. So excited to see what we get here as we get into our European competition.
What was your take on the APAC format, by the way? Obviously, chaos, right?
Yeah,
Lots of fun.
That was the big thing for me. It's like I'm trying to keep up with the results because we look at the results between APAC in this challenge versus the last one that we had only about 4 months ago, and the top 2 racers from APAC back then were very clearly Lags and then Graviator, another player that was actually racing in the last time, but now we get to switch up with the cars. We move on to a more traditional racing car, and it's a little bit different now where it makes it that he doesn't have the same results. So rather than the top 2 being definitive here, getting to see the back and forth between Subaru finally kind of pulling away at the end.
Już jestem, dobra.
Wielki starting off strong, but then kind of having that waiver to get into races.
Musieli zrobić restart jakiś.
Interesting back and forth. So I'm hoping we get something like that in EMEA. As I mentioned, though, it's usually a battle between 2 favorites in EMEA traditionally. So I'm looking towards all of the rest of you guys to get some upsets here today.
Well, we'll see if that's going to change
Jakiś
up
problem
at all,
pewnie
of
z
course, as we head
ustawieniami
into the
lobby
season. But like I said,
musieli
we wanted to take a step back, of course,
zrestartować.
look at how our racers got here, just like over
Matka,
in
ile
the
on
region.
musi
There was
się
2
nagadać,
paths that each of
by
our
dostali w
players
słuchawkę,
taken
że
to
ej, robią
qualify
jeszcze
for this
restart,
stage.
czy musicie
The
poczekać.
first one being our in-store competition days, where if they seated among the top racers in their specific store, they would have qualified for our race day semifinals that we had a few weeks back. Alternatively, in the Forza game itself, they could have taken place through our rivals qualifiers that we did over the past few months and managed to secure a final slot
brakuje.
that way as well. That's how we ended up with our grid for today's race, and it's going to be, once again, quite the challenge for our racers here. unlike previous seasons where we had 3 different cars to go with among all 3 races, we're keeping it consistent with the 1988 McLaren MP4/4, a legendary vehicle in terms of its history in motorsports, and we'll be working on 3 separate tracks as well. And also, unlike similar seasons where we kept it pretty much to the kind of real track, so to speak, we're now mixing in some Forza tracks as well, with Hakone and Maple Valley, winding things up after we go to Spa to start things out. In terms of how our points will work, it's pretty straightforward. Whoever races toward the top gets more points, and we also have that nice little bonus point there for fastest lap. It'll be 10 laps in total, and the players did qualify yesterday for the most part going into these ones, which actually is a nice change up to what you usually see in format where you do the qualifying live, because it gives our players a nice chance to kind of get ready for things here as well. Bass, you want to break us down what we're going to be looking at here for prizing?
Well, prizing is going to be 2 things that you see on your screen right now. On the right side, you can see the actual cash money that they have the opportunity to win here today. First place taking home $1,000. It's going to be a 200 jump until you get into 6th to 7th, where it goes to 300, then 100 underneath. You get the idea. You can read it on the right side. But really, it's that thing at the very bottom of your screen on the left. First place winner from each region receives an all expenses paid VIP tour for 2 at the VIP McLaren Technology Center. And that, I got to say, is a prize beyond compare, man. Being able to go there, get to see all the McLaren cars, get to see the technology that they are building. Just such a cool opportunity that has been available for the challenges before. And I'm glad we get to do it today again and give them $1,000. Imagine that. You get on an all expenses paid trip and you get $1,000, man. I don't think it gets better.
The gift shop over there at the MTC.
Literally. Just
must be
clear out.
having a great time after these tournaments, that's for sure. But that's what's on the line once again, just like we saw in APAC. So just a few minutes here, folks, and we're going to be winding up our first race, which is going to be on Spa as well. So that will be interesting because we saw that one be quite chaotic, especially in the MP4 back on our first race in APAC, right?
Yeah, it's been interesting, again, like you talked about in APAC, where it really did have, I'd say, consistent results into race 2 and 3, but in the beginning of it, you get to see that little back and forth, and that battle really happened on the spot. Again, to talk about that are a little more traditional, that have been in these challenges before and have semi-expected results. I'm looking towards a battle between that top 2, similar to what we saw on Spa before, and I think it is going to be a lot of those early turns that are going to determine the outcomes of this race as a whole. Again, look at people like me.
Pretty much the case. And again, for those folks who missed our first race, just
it's going to probably actually affect them through laps 9 and 10. You're not really going to have that chance to kind of catch back up in comparison to something like a Hakone or Maple Valley at the end, where it's going to have those straightaways that do allow you to kind of maybe gain some room if you know how to race a little bit better, be able to take some insides on those wider tracks instead. You don't really get that availability at Spa. Spa really is going to be punishing in a lot of ways.
Okej, zaczynamy wyścig.
APAC,
Pół godziny po czasie.
In EMEA, with racers probably struggling a little bit if they are not at the beginning of that pack, you then kind of get forced into those riskier plays. That's going to get really interesting here, as we saw in APAC, because as soon as risky plays did come out, you look at the top 5 there for the first race in APAC, and then you look at the top 5s for races 2 and 3, completely
Teraz powinni ustawić
again,
nas właśnie. Ja na pewno nie jestem na 6. pozycji. To chyba na 14.
Very limited places to pass, I would say, on a map like Spa.
Absolutely the case. Not to mention, too, it's a much longer track in comparison to the other 2 that we have in rotation for this tournament. The final 2, Hakone as well as Maple Valley, are right around 2.25 miles roughly, whereas Spa's about like 4.5. Closer to that. So there nearly
się
double
tam,
the
ja
length
nie mogę.
in terms of an overall race.
Nie
Like,
może sprawdzić dreftu.
double there as well, so that's really gonna
No
test
bo
our drivers'
ktoś ma
endurance
ducha
capabilities as
jak...
well. Really shouldn't like stress the mechanics on the cars that much just because of the fact that once
Ja na
again,
szczęście nie muszę się tym
races,
przejmować.
generally speaking, but still.
Ja i tak jadę w
Also
drugiej
important to note for those of you that
dziesiątce.
missed out on the action in the previous few weeks leading up to this event,
Nie
you
sądzę,
can
żeby
still
się coś
participate
stało.
and potentially
Grunt, żebym
earn
miał
your
czysty
own
wyścig, żebym nic nie odwalił, żebym nie wylądował w bandach. I tyle. Jechać sobie spokojnie. To jest mój cel. Nie ma wszystkich w ogóle, jest 16, na powinno być 18. Tak, na pewno jestem za Thanos
That's
lapem.
got to be one of the coolest things about this. Again, we talked about it. You know, the winner is getting that opportunity to
dwóch
be able to go
wyścigach.
out
W następnym
and
też jestem za
declare a new
Thanos lapem
technology center,
zaraz.
but you also have that opportunity at home if you would like to. Just all you have to do is participate. Put up a lap, see what you get here. You might not be able to get into the top 10 as these racers have been practicing on this for so long, but you still get entered into the contest. And as we've talked about, it's an incredible opportunity.
No
They
Jezu,
might not have
5 minut
$10,000 in their pocket from winning to go
przerwy.
out the gift shop, but you still get an opportunity to kind of look around, see what it is, and I promise you, it's worthwhile the experience.
się skróci
Incredibly
chociaż
cool
trochę.
place at McLaren Technology Center.
You can see behind us now, our racers are getting ready, nice and warmed up. But yes, they're getting ready now to jump into spots. We'll be getting started with our first race of the EMEA region in just a
Dobra,
second.
2927 poziom. 5229 poziom. 1780, 700 ten. 6523 poziom. 958, 4016, 1532, 3676, 2530, 3046, 4942, 2423 i ja 60, 22, 85, nie? No to tak właśnie jeździmy, nie? To jest ta ostatnia trójka, to są te 3 pozostałe osoby z tych finałów, które były 3 tygodnie temu, nie? Ja pierdzielę. I to nawet z tego nic się nie da wykierować, nic. Bo nawet jeśli rąbną, walną jakiegoś dzwona, gdzieś wypadną, to stracą co najwyżej z 10 sekund i oni są w stanie raz, dwa to nadgonić, nie? Chyba że zrobią to w ostatnich okrążeniach. Tylko jak to zrobią w ostatnich okrążeniach, to będą mieli taką przewagę, że nawet ja ich nie wyprzedzę wtedy, jak oni będą w tej ścianie leżeć.
Our number 9 here in Brulder, I'm going to say Bituni. I'm going to hopefully pronounce that correctly if I get the chance. And then ZR Ruiz Racer. We get down to our top 8 now, though, here, Blue, and this is the top half of the pack. These are probably going to be the racers we're going to start to have to pay attention to very closely as the race develops.
All right, let's keep going down the list here and see who else we have. ZR Villa will take P7, moving up to P6. Moving on from that, we will have Quinton Jeff, who once again is going to be a familiar name for me. We've seen him participate in these challenges previously. Josie will take up the starting top 5 here in 5th place itself. And now into the top 4. We've got Eclipse. These are the names you folks are really going to start to remember here in 4th place. 3rd place goes to Miguel. Finishing up the rest of our podium starting position, we've got Barcode, who once again should be a name a lot of folks know as a familiar face coming into these McLaren G challenges, and then Boquet was dominated.
Przegadałem to jak mnie przedstawiali.
Making his return once again here for the summer season in 2025.
Yeah, Boquet has dominated these G challenges before, but interesting enough, the last one they did not. It was actually instead RB and Mitch that comes out on top, but Boquet still very consistent in the last G challenge that we had. They finished 2 out of the 3 races in 2nd place. They were a very consistent finalist in multiple of these occasions. So again, really impressive racing across the board here, but it is also going to show that there are very clearly front runners for who we have to expect on the day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to count out a lot of those other guys who I would say somewhere in that top half. An interesting name that we mentioned going through this one was Kaiser Miguel and then Quinton, 2 racers that I think have finished within the top 5 pretty consistently throughout these G challenges, but are probably going to have to go up against it in this first race here. I do recommend to them, don't necessarily go for the maybe riskier play here. If we look at the tradition here for the G challenge, it's actually not been the racer that's had the fastest lap necessarily that's winning these races. It's the racer that is playing consistently, that is making the right moves. And as you mentioned, locking the spot, there are going to be those opportunities where you have to kind of balance that risk versus reward. And for those racers who are maybe in that 4th to 8th spot, trying to climb up further into the podium, do be careful. I don't necessarily think that you should maybe full send it just because it's giving you a chance to get past. play carefully. It's not necessarily about just having the fastest lap, but having the most consistency throughout the 3
And
or 10.
We'll see that be really a consistent theme throughout these tracks as well. Going over to our second one on Coney, in my opinion, the player who drives the most consistently has the best racing line is going to win that race 9 times out of 10. Not the most aggressive racer. The track just doesn't really play into that play style, unlike Spa that we're seeing right now. And then for Maple Valley, if you want to make some moves, that's the track to make a move on. You can get real whippy on that track. You just got to be able to control it at the end of the day, as we saw for a few of our racers back in APAC. They were unable to do so, so we're going to have to really tide that balance, basically, especially coming out of the big straightaways there. But it's all a focus on Spa, like we said before, by far our most difficult track out of the 3 that we have here, and definitely our most technical when it comes to the raw muscle memory you need to have coming into this one.
20
The
sekund.
number of turns, the overall length of the track, not to mention the
Do
difficulty
rozpoczęcia
of the turns.
wyścigu.
Very much this one right here that we're looking at the source and taking that downhill into Rouge Redoublement as well.
I almost had the track.
Tylko się nie
We're
rozwalić.
getting
To
closer
jest
and closer every single time that we try
nie
it on this one.
rozwalić
But
się.
yeah, pay attention to
Tak
this
jak
turn in
miałem
specific.
w
It is going
pierwszych
to cause a lot of
sezonach,
problems. I mean, we saw
jak
that
jeździłem
last
w
time. I'm trying
F1.
to think of
Nie rozwalić się, to jest jedyne. Dojechać do końca. No tutaj dojechać do końca to akurat nie da się nie dojechać do końca. Chyba, że cię wywalą za złe zachowanie. Dobra, lecimy. Startujemy.
I would not recommend that unless your name is probably Boquet. It's not going to be a great idea to try and play chicken with a lot of these guys who, as we talked about, have practiced on this. And they get a good time. So these guys will be able to so let's get into it. 10 laps here on Spa, our first race for EMEA.
That's where we go. Boquet once again leading the charge. Will more than likely be able to keep it as well as he's going to give it a live lap on hard
Ktoś poleciał.
He'll be busy through here though, so still expect some juggling amongst our races to really split up. We're going to really cross the line downhill, watching the Blue Rouge here. And still very much in charge. We'll see if that remains the case once we work with
I do want to give flowers where they are due to. I think they were see by the way that they did the overtake here on this turn, and they
Ale się zagapiłem, ja pierdzielę. No i to jestem właśnie ja, nie? To jest cały ja. Nie ma nadziei.
That being said, this is
To jest początek wyścigu. Dla mnie jeszcze może się dużo wydarzyć. Przede mną mogą popełnić błędy. Muszę jechać. Ju, co?
0.6 seconds.
Raz wyjechałem poza tor i od razu karę dostałem. Coś tu bądź spokojny. Jedź swoje. inni widziałem już tyle razy wyjeżdżali szeroko poza tor i nic nie dostali. No i wyjechał tak samo jak ja. No, dostał karę. Teraz bez. Losowość kar w tej grze jest zdumiewająca.
Time
No,
penalty
0,8,
is 0.8
no i pierdol się.
Biding his time, waiting for him to retake the not look like we'll see immediately come to fruition of this. That's a catch up to that. Ultimately, let's see if he's able to protect that. Assistant for this. Coming back around toward the chicane here for Barton, and it clips and it clips. Ace Flares
Z takimi karami to
it seems at least, but that is going to cost him quite a bit of momentum. He's going through the chicane. Will get a bit more aggression on the first flips. It's going to be once again hard, but still going to be able to maintain.
tam się zarzuciło. Na wyjściu pewnie. Co za pizda.
3 seconds.
Trzeba dorwać Divaja. To jest koniec, że tak powiem, jeśli chodzi o możliwości. 31 sekund, nie? Także my mamy swój osobny wyścig. Cały czas się mieści w tych 1-2 do mnie. Ale ma karę. Wygrałem z kultywatora. Oh my god. Udało mi się, przed nim udało mi się. No i proszę was. 1.55 i tak jest, zrobiłem chyba życiówkę. Ci za mną w ogóle mieli szybsze czasy. 13.
Jak tam?
Kurwa, ale się kurwa spociłem. Bo wiesz, miałem stratę 1.7, nie? Znaczy karę 1.7. I gościu był bardzo blisko mnie i później musiał coś tam zrobić i dostał, wiesz, sekundę kary. Ale i tak się zbliżał do mnie, nie? No są szybsi po prostu tutaj.
Czyli który? 13?
13, no.
Oj, spoko.
No jakby wiesz, na czele tych drugich, nie? Tego drugiego.
No widziałem, nie? Co tam się działo, nie? Chłopaki pojechali.
Tak, tam ci wiesz, 3 sekundy szybciej na okrążeniu. Masakra.
I gotta say, I wanted to predict this while we were going through the race, but we started getting, you know,
Ale zdaje, co? to nie ten.
You know, placing top 3, which is incredibly useful, but also the fact that
Jeszcze nie przeszliśmy na... A już ten
race. If you noticed, he's the only racer to get underneath that 151 mark for the lap. He is our fastest lap at that point, which means that Bocat, despite the fact that he, yes, you know,
No jak tam się dużo walki mieli? Oglądasz to na Twitchu, czy nie?
Nie, no bardziej ten. Patrzę jak ty jedziesz, nie?
No, ale tam wiesz, wrzuciłem okienko z tego wyścigu, nie?
Tak, wiem, no to patrzę, nie?
That's what I'm saying,
To wiesz, no
man.
ty masz jest dzioba, nie? Wiesz, że tam po prostu jest
No tak.
jakby za bolidów, więc ciężko mi nawet porównać, nie? Jak oni jadą jakby.
No. Ja, nawet jakbyś porównał, to i tak wiesz. Nie bym tego w trakcie wyścigu nie wdrożył.
Nie, no tak, no. Ciężko się zmienia nawyki. Znaczy uczy się, nawet uczy, nie? Nie masz w sumie zmieniać przy tym levelu, nie?
No. Czyli nadal jesteśmy w Spa. Może by nas już przerzucili, co?
I think we're going to a quick little break here, and when we return, we will be back with our second race here for EMEA. Again, we're not going to stay on spot anymore. We're moving to Hakone, so do not go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple moments.
Też to takie, wiesz, my takie nuby, co nie? Dobra, wiesz co, idę sobie zrobić wodę z tym. Wodę z cytryną, bo zaraz uschnę.
Widać już wyścig. Nie widzę. Nie widzę. Nie widzę odliczania nigdzie.
A, okej. Kurwa. Dobra, już zmieniło na Hakonę.
Ile? Brawo, wyścigu.
Co?
Ile tobie pokazuje czasu na wyścigu?
Nie pokazuję teraz, bo oni czekają po prostu jakby dostosowują się do tego, co wiesz, tam jest na streamie, nie?
rozłączam się, chyba też sobie w coś pogram. Dobra, to rozłączam się.
Dobra.
Będzie mi tutaj strumyk leciał, to będę śledził. No, to
Dobra.
I mean, what did it do for most people if your name's not? If you're in clips, you're probably not the that did happen on that one. It kind of. As he starts to get the pressure of Boquet, who could eventually overtake him and take that second place. And I think the risk from him probably was problematic at the end of that race and really did lean to what pushed him into that third place position. But again, as you talked about on Hakone, there's going to be a little bit more opportunity to maybe not make those risky moves because they won't be as risky. With a larger track, you're going to have that opportunity, and it's going to really be about playing, as we said, consistently, racing consistently, knowing your lines, and studying, something that I think we have to continue giving flowers to Barcode for. It was very clear he knew the line on spot. I imagine he's going to know the line here on Hakone as well. It's a racer that's very clearly studied these races, studies these tracks, and knows exactly how to race, what line to take, and really dictated the pace, I would say, for the race of the last one that we just had.
Big key areas as we focus on Hakone as well is really going to be, in my opinion, those final two turns before we work our way out into what's a very long straightaway passing through the starting line. If you try to make a move there, which to be fair you absolutely can, the problem is it's going to have massive issues in regards to the amount of speed you're going to have coming down that straightaway. So what may cost you maybe a tenth or a hundredth of a second on the turn is going to turn into maybe a second or two as you work your way down the straightaway. So you need to be very careful about how you manage that. Yes, you can make a move if you're 2 to 3 seconds ahead of the player 2 positions behind you, but if it's 2, 3 racers right next to each other, more than likely the one that didn't participate in the action, so to speak, is probably going to be the one that ends up leading because they'll be able to get so much of a speed boost working their way down the straightaway, because it is pretty much just a straight line of this track if you really kind of zoom out on it a little bit.
I like the term that Frank brought up in the APAC race here, where I think he was talking about, third parking, if you will. It's something that traditionally would not probably be applied to racing, but I think on a track like Hakone probably can be applied. You do want to be that person that's maybe a little bit behind the pack, but he's playing closely. Again, we saw the benefit of that from Boquet in the last one, where he just really did a good job at staying just far enough behind Eclipse and Barcode that if something did go wrong, he's not going to get caught up in the middle of it, but close enough to where if the opportunity arises, he can overtake. And I think that's going to be a lot of the advantage of the player or the racers here on Hakone, especially if you are that top 4. We talked about this. The pack obviously was 1, 2, 3, and then there was a little bit of a gap before we get to 4, 5, 6, 7, but they were close enough that they definitely could have overtaken, and had the right opportunity, they would have been able to push themselves a couple places up. And I do kind of feel like, especially here on Hakone, that's going to stay extremely relevant for how close of a track it is, considering it's a lot shorter than what we saw in Spa, plus the wider track itself. There is going to be that opportunity for people to maybe try and stay just a little bit behind players that are going to try and take those inner lines a little bit more riskily, and then maybe try and overtake when they do make a mistake. So again, this could turn into either a very standard race where everybody's just racing their lines, or we could see a couple of racers maybe try to take advantage of those wider turns so they can find a move here and there.
Gives you more options in terms of a racing line for sure, in terms of how you can traverse it. You can maybe take that later break coming into one of those 2 bigger barnyard curves and maybe take that later exit, but you'll get the early acceleration because you went a little wider, and that can give you an extra speed boost that maybe is needed to push yourself forward. Let's take a look at the starting grid for race number 2, of course. Important to mention that these racers actually qualified yesterday for this one, so they've known what their starting positions were going to be for a good 24 hours or so now, and have had time to come up with a strategy in retrospect to that. It could be part of the reason why we saw such kind of complex makings of plays towards the end of our first track on Spa. But of course, we work our way down here at P14. We've got Zordon 1990, who started out in a similar position on our previous track. Thanos Slat will take P13 here on Hakone. Gatillo a little bit further back, actually, compared to where we saw him previously. He's going to be in P12 to start things out here. And then as we work our way up towards P11 and P10, we've got Josie, who I'm sure we'll see push a little bit further than that, and Sean as well, who was hanging out around 5th or 6th place in our last race, now starting P10 this time.
Yeah, Mickey wasn't exactly a racer that we saw necessarily stay at the top of the pack, but they did finish, or they started the race, excuse me, in a very similar position here from the grid. Again, a lot of these are going to be familiar racers, again, with Bruletter here, as well as Kaiser Miguel. This time, going to start up a little bit further in the pack. I think it's going to give them a huge advantage. This is a racer that finished in 4th in our last race. Ruiz, another racer that did extremely well in the last one as well, was kind of continuing in that battle. This is interesting, though. Barcode starting in 5th in our grid, not going to be within that top 3, so might take a second for them to battle back and maybe pass somebody like ZR Villa instead, who's taking that 4th position.
For our final 3, moving on from that one, we'll see what the podium starting is going to be. Boquet, not in P1 this time, but way back in P3, which gives us a little bit of a wild card shakeup for P2 and P1. Who ended up grabbing that? It's Quinton Jet, actually, starting out in P2, who was way back around like P7 or so.
Oh, yeah.
Back in our first race. This will give him a nice starting advantage. The question will be, will he keep it? And now, nicely done here for Eclipse. He may not have had the ending he wanted to race number 1, but race number 2 is going to start out his way all day as he gets the P1 start in this time. Once again, folks, we'll take a quick look at the format before we jump into things here real quick. We're on our 2nd out of 3 races right now. The car will stay the same throughout all 3 races, but after this, we'll be moving over to Maple Valley. Once again, we'll have our point totals tallied up after race 3 is finished to determine our ultimate winner, and we'll be taking home the $1,000 first place prize, along with that very much deserved trip to the McLaren Technology Center as well.
And again, we talked about this. Not only do you have to pay attention to the map that is currently in the middle of your screen here, we talked about Hakone. The race number 2 is going to be a very different track from Spa.
To nie powinno być jakiegoś dużego problemu.
I need to go into any details about why it's going to be different. You can see it for your own. Yeah, look at the circles. You can tell there's going to be a lot less of these sharper turns, a lot more opportunity. There are going to be a couple of places definitely for the opportunity to overtake, but as we take a look over to the right side of your screen, we talk once again about the point totals and the importance of them. As I mentioned before, 1st place and 2nd place get a 3-point gap between them. After that, it turns into a 2-point gap until you get to 9th or 10th. That is not necessarily true if you can get the fastest lap. And as we talked about last time, Boquet, despite having battled for that 2nd and 3rd for the most, or for the majority of that race, they finish in 2nd place and they get that fastest lap. So rather than having a 3-point gap between them and 1st now, they've solidified that down to a 2.
I zrobiłem 57. Zrobiłem 57.
What storyline do we focus on first here at this point,
Ale
man? We
walka.
got 80 to talk about, but the biggest thing to talk about is that man right there,
Połowę wyścigu.
going to take the first place. And I don't think we can overstate at this point. That might have just given him the entirety of EMEA here. That's 2 first places back to back, and not only does he do that, he does so with, let's see if I was correct on my prediction. Did he get the fastest lap? We'll find out in a moment here. Barcode though, my guy, goodness.
And props to Quentin Jet as well. We were talking about him all throughout the course of this race, but a massive rise from him as well, finishing I think towards the middle of the pack back on race number 1, now on the podium for race 2. So massive props to him as well, and an increase in his own performance.
That every part of the end of that race is exactly what we were picturing though. And again, it honestly makes me feel good as like an analyst in this. That we're gonna be like, no, this is what we were talking about, man. I promise you. And it's exactly what we were talking about with Barcode here. Again, playing well in that 3rd place and just kind of waiting for his opportunity. And he did eventually find his opportunity here. As you can see though, Bokeh, 4th place. They got knocked down so far, they didn't even finish on the podium, and Barcode stands atop it firmly. He does not finish with the fastest lap. That actually goes to, I think, Quentin Jez. Shout out to them for it. That's going to keep them in contention here, but man, that 4th place for Bokeh, that might have taken them out of contention at this point.
We'll have to see, of course. Bokeh, for those who aren't aware, of course, has been our champion in quite a few previous seasons, was recently upset, I believe, in the most recent season, and was looking to reclaim it this time around, but it seems like the competition has heated up quite a bit, and not just an APAC. EMEA as well has some new challengers, and an amazing one in the form of Barcode, who's been able to steal 2 victories away so far. Will he be able to get the 3rd one? It's looking likely indeed, especially with the chaos that will more than likely come out from Maple Valley, but we'll have to bide our time and wait to see the outcome of that one.
I have no idea what to expect at this point here. The only thing I state is that everybody's eyes better be on Barcode. You need to make sure that man does not finish, not even in the podium. You can't have him in the top 5 if you want a chance at overtaking this one here, man. It has been incredibly impressive from him the entire time. My question now, is that actually going to happen? We're going to a quick break, but when we return, our 3rd and final race here for EMEA, do not go anywhere. We will be right back.
Dobra, zaraz będzie zmiana toru. No i teraz będzie prawdziwy pokaz wyjeżdżania poza tor. No chyba, że zepnę dupę i mi się uda. tam miałem przewagę nad tym Thanosem w tych właśnie dwóch zakrętach, nie? Bo nieważne czy się ustawiłem po zewnętrznej czy po wewnętrznej, to byłem w stanie się obronić, nie? Rozwalane było. Nie wiem co to było.
Championships. We're focusing on EMEA right now, heading into map number 3, and what a championship this series has been so far. Filled with surprises, filled with upsets. Let's take a look at the current standings and see exactly where we sit as we get ready to head into our third and final race, Maple Valley. And the story here is Barcode, who has had 2 upset victories on our first 2 races.
Again, a racer that we know to be very talented in the past, but in comparison, you look at the previous G Challenge that we just had about 4 months ago, his greatest placement was 3rd. And that was what he got all 3 races in a row. Now he completely flips the script. He has gotten 2 first places in a row, putting him at that 56-point total. But really, 2nd and 3rd is the most contentious battle that we have at the moment here, with a single point separating Eclipse and Boquet. Similar for 4th and 5th here, as Kaiser Miguel and Quentin Jaya are also a single point apart. But it really goes to show how far away Barcode has played at this point. When you get down to 6th, 7th, and the rest of the pack, and he is almost 30 points above most of these people.
So very impressive run so far. Now, it's a good thing he secured.
To jest problem, bo spadnę prawdopodobnie za Thanosa, jeśli nie pójdzie. Aczkolwiek to jest taki tor, że można wypaść.
So far, it's a very narrow, very kind of rugged type of track, which doesn't play well to a delicate type of car like the MP44. So this is always a fun one to end things on as well, especially with that final straightaway going right down the hill past the starting line and pretty much immediately into another curve. This is really going to test our racers and, in my opinion, give them plenty of opportunities to make a move as well, but at their own risk. That's the caveat to it. And Barcode, with the position that he's in, he doesn't really need to take risks now. He can go about this a little bit more casually, just focus on his own line, and as long as he has a podium finish or maybe even top 5 finishing, he's in great shape to take the whole thing home. It's his opponents behind him now that really need to find a way to finish this race and finish it cleanly, because it's been those penalty points that have been constantly pushing down Eclipse and Boquet's actual final finishing position over these past 2 races.
I was about to say, are we speaking about somebody in particular?
Yes.
You just called him out, man. You didn't even hesitate on that one. And I agree wholeheartedly. The unfortunate truth is that's exactly what has been the problem for both Boquet as well as Eclipse throughout this entire thing. Again, Boquet gets bumped down to 4th place in that one due to, I would say, an overly physical take at the end there that we both saw happen, and it wasn't even successful. It got him into first for like a quarter of a second, and then immediately goes back. And it's really what allowed Barcode to then slip into that 3rd position and then overtake both 1st and 2nd at the end. I do also want to give credit, again, that final move from Barcode was just immaculate. There is not another word to use. It was perfectly set up, it was perfectly executed, and really a well-earned victory. The comparison between the 2 of them, you have to imagine that on one side, it's Eclipse losing his mind, furious at what just happened, and on the other side, it's literally just Barcode there, like, Easy as pie. We'll take a look over at the grid here as we get into our third and final race here for EMEA. Again, all familiar drivers. I'm curious to what the switch up is going to be for our starting positions here, because we saw that top 5 last time was way different than we anticipated.
Absolutely. So we'll see if that is the case once again, because like we had mentioned, Maple Valley is not your kind of traditional track for this type of vehicle in any way, shape, or form. So it'll be fun to see if anyone was able to excel or potentially have themselves reduced a little bit more than they were previously. Sean, back in 11th starting position here.
4019 poziom i gościu na 13 pozycji.
Here in 10th place. What else do we have here as we work our way down?
I will say, we got Mickey again, continually at the middle of the pack. I do want to point out ZR Villa, one of the people we just talked about a little bit, and as well as Quinton Jez, two racers that have actually started a bit further behind in the grid than anticipated, but have continually made some impressive runs. Villa, top 5 last time. Josie has done well throughout, and Kaiser, another racer we have to pay attention to, currently battling for that 4th and 5th position, which is a really prestigious place to be, but unfortunately they have not made it into the top 5 like Ruiz, who we haven't really seen them hold on to that top 5 despite these really good qualifying races.
Finally, to wind up our top 4 here, it's going to be Cotillo that's able to sneak himself way into the top 4 this time. We'll see if he's able to sneak some points away from that. Barcode, our current point leader in P3 to start things off, which will be a nice, comfortable position for him to maintain. Eclipse in P2, and that means we all know who is in P1 leading the charge, looking to make a comeback here in the final race of the tournament. Boquet will maintain our pole position as we work our way into Maple Valley. As you can see here in the top right, just another minute to go here, folks. Then we'll be getting into the race to see who will be our ultimate champion. Does Barcode maintain his pace? Does he continue to excel with these upset finishes towards the end? And will he be our point champion after all? Or is something crazy going to happen and knock him all the way back to open up a pathway for either Boquet or Eclipse? We'll have to wait and see.
You have to hope that if you are Boquet or Eclipse, that he is going to try and take this risky, because otherwise there isn't much availability for you to overtake him to try and change the point totals here in a more significant way. It's definitely still possible, but you really do have to kind of rely on Barcode being the one to be like, why not? Let's take this turn a little bit more risky. Let's take this dive a little bit more aggressively. Like, why not? It's got to be the mentality, but I don't think we're going to see that out of Barcode. We talked about this a lot.
Dobra, jeśli będę ostatecznie na tej 13 lub 14 pozycji, to $100 będzie do wygrania. Od 15 w dół jest $50.
And again, as we talked about it, Spa's a very narrow track. It's a little bit different than Hakone here in Maple Valley, where it is going to be a little bit of a wider track that they can race on. But I still feel that if you give him the opportunity to play defensively, he is going to race that way, and he's going to prevent 4th, 5th, whoever's behind him from getting close at all. And as long as he doesn't fall that far back, this is basically a guarantee for him. So I look to Eclipse and I look to Boquet to do something spectacular here, because if they do not, this is basically Barcodes to take home.
Absolutely the case. And again, talking a little bit more about the track, talking a little bit more about what to expect here at Maple Valley. Very different from our previous 2 tracks in the fact that, in my opinion, unlike Hakone, there's plenty of opportunities to pass on this track, but everything happens at high speed. There's no sudden slowdown where you're having to maneuver a turn in 1st, 2nd, if you are in 3rd gear, it's still going to be while you're moving pretty heftily through one of these curves, and it's oftentimes a battle between the momentum moving on top of the race, a little bit higher than some of these turns. So slow down. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Our final race of the EMEA Championship here is getting off to a hot start. Eclipse in 2nd, our current point leader in 3rd. Let's see.
I've got to say, this time
odpuścić niż wrypać się tam na trawę. Poczekać na błąd.
1 second.
So overall, the middle of the pack is continuing to bounce back a lot more than anybody else. No, 3-second differential at this point between Barcode and Ortiz. We cannot overtake again how large of a gap that this team has accomplished through every single one of the races that
dzięki.
Take that risk and try and overtake the Clips.
Clips does have the inside line, was fighting heavily to maintain it, so even though we are going to see Barkley
I nie dostał żadnej kary.
Could still see things change up. It looks like for the first time in quite a while, we do have a consistent finisher here in Boquet who will cross in P1. The Clips look like he'll be able to sneak away with P2, but just by a wheel's length or so here, as Barkley sits very close behind in P4.
As we talked about, though, as much as that must feel great for the Clips and for Boquet to be able to actually overtake Barkley in those two races, these top three racers are a bit above the rest of the pack, as the final total between them and fourth place is a 7-second difference.
It is great to see, though, once again, that we have even more racers competing inside that top three. Generally speaking, as we've gone through season to season of this one, it started out with the story of Boquet. Then we expanded that story out. We're now focusing on 2 racers. Now we move into this season, we're focusing on 3 racers. So it's really just great to see that kind of top echelon of competitive racers that we're seeing here in the EMEA region continues to grow on a season-to-season basis. And it's not just the same play, kind of crushing things every single time.
I mean, we talked about this again. Mitch, our prior winner, not participating in this one, and he kind of left the door open for anybody else to kind of be like, no, I'm top dog. And you'd imagine, based on the battles we've had prior between Boquet and Mitch in these G challenges, that it would probably be, you know, Boquet coming back out on top. All of a sudden, you get 2 new contestants here, not new contestants, but contestants that have risen at this point. Again, I have to continue giving credit to Barcode on this one. His best result in the last G challenge was a top 3. His worst result at this point was a top 3.
And taking a look at things as well, he was very much off on his lonesome, so I was curious to see if he managed to secure best lap to get himself a little bit of a point boost. That's not going to end up being the case. I believe that honor is more than likely going to go to Boquet.
Oh, yeah.
Confirmation on that, of course. Looks like it is indeed going to be the case, though. So Boquet with a nice little boost as well there. Brings him just a little bit closer. More than likely, we'll end up seeing him finish in 2nd place, but we'll wait for those results to be tallied for the official declaration on that one. Barcode, once again, though, more than happy to just stick around with his P3 finish, and actually that entire top 3 grid finishing exactly where it started. Pretty much no changes from the starting lineup there, as that was kind of the picture of consistency that we expected to see from those top 3.
I do also want to give some credit to our 4th place finisher there in Kaiser Miguel. We talked about this a lot. They were really in the battle for 4th and 5th place throughout the entirety of that one, but as soon as they found themselves a bit further from the pack, they did a good job of being the singular racer in their pack at this point. It was top 3, Kaiser Miguel, and everybody else underneath them. And Kaiser did a great job of being able to maintain that position. Again, we talked about it. There's definitely a big gap between them and the top 3, but the fact that they hold on to that 4th throughout the entirety of the race and probably are going to now finish 4th overall in the contest because of that, well done to them. An incredibly good race, incredibly well done way to finish off our EMEA. As again, this is what we talked about. That is their 3rd and final race here for EMEA, which is kind of crazy because I feel like with how fast the action was, that flew by for me.
Szczerze nie wiem co dalej, pewnie napiszą jakiś Adon Cucman będzie na tym, na Discordzie Logitecha. Prawdopodobnie jestem 13, 2 razy 13 i raz 15. Nie pamiętam jaka jest punktacja, też zaraz mogę sobie sprawdzić. Where is the rules?
If you are just joining us or recently tuned in thinking this is the end, stick with us because we still have plenty more action to go. We'll be resetting and working ourselves over towards Spa and working our way through those same 3 tracks again with the same car as well. So we'll get to remix things 2 more times here throughout the rest of the day. Still plenty of action to come up in that respect. And if Latin America from our previous season is any repeat coming into this season, I think that was going to be a heck of a lot of fun as well because we saw absolute chaos there looking back at the previous season we casted a few months ago. So very excited to see what ends up happening there as we'll have Frank jumping back in my place for that one. Just well here. But what's a review here on EMEA? NBA now as we're kind of winding things down, just waiting for the point totals.
I think this is what I want to see out of every single region.
O,
I
tu
want to
jest
see where
punktacja.
it's like I'm not necessarily. I appreciate
2 razy
the underdog
13,
story. I've always been a fan of that, but it
czyli
not necessarily need to have an
12
underdog story.
punktów.
Sometimes all you need is a good contest at the very top, and they provided that
raz
in
15.
spades at this point. Again, a very well done
Plus
top
4,
three.
czyli
We really never had
16.
an idea of who was going to take this
A
one, as much as we
tamten
had
zdobył
a
2 razy po
general
5.
idea. It continued to go back and forth and
Czyli
battle
ma
the entire time, which now
10.
leads us to our final leaderboard here with
6,
maybe some
czyli 16, czyli mamy tyle samo, więc teoretycznie przez to, że ja byłem 2 razy na wyższej pozycji,
Comes as no surprise.
to
Barco does
powinienem być wyżej.
indeed hold on to that first place, and Boquet's win in our third race secures them second. Eclipse in third. Miguel indeed does hold on to fourth, and despite the maybe lackluster finish in the third race, Quentin Jett
No
does
tak,
hold on to
teoretycznie
fifth.
powinienem mieć
This is about what we expected, I feel, here,
13
Lou.
pozycję
Pretty much the case.
zachować.
Barco's earlier successes that we saw on race 1 and race 2 with those heartbreak finishes very much earned him the victory in some respects before we even got to race number 3 here. So him being able to
Więc
kind of just
teoretycznie
mosey
$100
along in
powinno
P3 for
wpaść.
race 3 was very much a reward from the previous 2 races, and then it was just kind of the battle for second past that point amongst our other 2 racers as
No,
well.
jestem ciekawy,
Greatly
jak to
played by
będzie
them, of course, to be able to achieve it,
zrealizowane.
but it is going to be Barco
Blikiem?
with 78
Ja nie
points
mają
that
blika.
takes home the grand prize of not only $1,000
No dobra,
spending cash,
to tyle
on top of
na
that,
dzisiaj.
very
Trochę mnie
well-deserved
głowa już boli
McLaren Tech
od tych
bonus.
emocji.
All the magic that brings
Także
McLaren
ja
to
już
season.
And
kończę.
again, it's got to feel
Streamka.
so good
I
for
sobie
Barco
odpalę
here as they not only
Wiedźmina
get the first place, but they get it
planszóweczkę.
over a racer that they had
Więc sobie
previously
dopiero co
lost to.
zakupiłem.
Again, Boquet not only
No i trzeba by ją
challenge here, but they were in
w końcu
second place and have won other G challenges in the past.
zobaczyć
So
i
Barco
zagrać.
now finally being able to overtake that, being able to find himself atop the mountain here at 78
Więc
points.
fajnie było, fajnie sobie wygrać
I do
$100
wanna again give credit to Eclipse there. It kind of
przez
felt like they
przypadek
were
tak
definitely the
naprawdę,
second, third racer
to
in many
wszystko.
of these moments here, but they did a good
Wy już
job
mi
at
tu nie
despite maybe
gadajcie.
not being as comfortable when they were in that leading position, they still knew what they were doing. They were doing a fantastic
Jo.
job of keeping the pressure on.
No. Za chwilę będzie tutaj kolejny finał, więc jak ktoś chce oglądać jakieś kolejne finały, to kanał Forza na Twitchu. No, więc ja na dzisiaj kończę. Fan był, zdecydowanie, zwłaszcza w drugim wyścigu. No i $100 wpadło. Przyjemnie. Więc to tyle na dzisiaj. Widzimy się pewnie w jakichś odcinkach. Hejka.